everybody. Here we are in the Countdown Cup. We're doing it reverse this week. Let me know what you think of this format. So, we're doing reverse predictions. As you can see, I already have all the predictions down. All the games already happened. So, we're going to be looking at my predictions, see what I got right, see what I got wrong. We're going to be looking at the standings after week number 1 and see who's in good shape to make the Countdown Cup and who is not in good shape. And we're also going to take a little brief look at overall playoff standings because, you know, for some of these teams, there's only 2 matches left in the regular season. So, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. Super exciting. Let's launch right into it. So, I didn't do the best. You know, it wasn't awful, but definitely could have been better. As you can see, I had Dallas Phil taking down Paris 3-1. In the end, we had Paris win that one 3-2. Had Houston 3-1. The Justice, and they 3-0'd them. So most points for that, but not all of them. We had Boston Uprising, surprisingly, took down the Paris Eternal 3-1. And then we had Atlanta take down Gladiators 3-2. I nailed the Dallas Shock one, with Dallas getting a super narrow victory 3-2 there. Was very off on Atlanta Houston. Atlanta dominating in that matchup. And I was mostly right with San Francisco taking down Boston 3-1. Wasn't quite as close as I thought it'd be. And then same thing with Gladiators beating down Justice 3-0. So, you know, like I said, we did all right. You know, Atlanta was the one team that really, Atlanta and Paris, you know, they really got me. I underestimated and overestimated Paris, and I underestimated Atlanta both times. So, but you know, 9 points, I will take that. No huge upsets here. You know, Paris beating Fuel was a pretty big upset, but that was about it. Moving down to the East, this one went a bit better. You know, had more points on, you know, the same, on more matches, or sorry, on less matches. So close on Spark Dynasty. Spark made it a little closer than I thought, but Dynasty did take that one. Got 6 easy points for predicting Valiant getting 3-0'd. Feels bad. And I was off on both of my Dragons predictions. Shanghai surprisingly going 0-2 in their first 2 matches for the Countdown Cup. They need to win both of their, you know, their second or their third and fourth matches, and they need to win them by a good margin if they want to make their 4th tournament in a row. And then we nailed the Philly Fusion, taking down the Spark 3-1. So, like I said, not a bad week prediction-wise. Big upsets. Obviously, New York, you know, taking down Shanghai was crazy, and then Philly, you know, beating Shanghai and beating them in 3-0 fashion, extremely surprising as well. You know, Coach Moon from the Dragons, of course, he said that it felt like some burnout was there for sure. You know, this team has gone to every tournament. They've gone deep in every single tournament, so you know, they've been apparently lightening their practicing schedule. You know, so I think that has affected them a little bit. Am I extremely worried about them? No. You know, there's got to be a little bit level of concern. But you know, they're the back-to-back you know, stage champions. So I'm not, you know, worried about them. I still view them as the favorite to win it all. But we had a couple of, you know, really strong, you know, it's a really strong week for Atlanta. You know, they're the biggest winners here. Pretty much everyone else, you know, kind of went 1-1. You know, Shock 1-1, Gladiators 1-1, Houston 1-1, Paris 1-1. Big losers were, of course, Justice. They dropped both of their matches. They did not win a single map. And they are in really, really big trouble for this, for the Countdown Cup and for the overall playoffs. So, let's look at the leaderboard real quick. Yeah, okay. So we had a couple people do great, getting 35, 35, 34. We're at 20. Not too bad. We'll see if we can move up for next week. See if we can do better. And then next week I do plan on doing video where I'm recording my pick'ems and this one afterwards. We just had some pretty big technical issues as well as scheduling problems this week. So, looking at the schedule, or sorry, not the schedule, the standings, we've got Atlanta going out to a commanding 2-0 with a +4 differential, so they're in really good shape. You know, one more win will get them in for sure. You know, obviously 2 will probably secure them a bye in the knockouts. You know, and then we have Gladiators in pretty good shape. You know, 1-1 with that nice little +2 map differential. Shock 1-1 with the +1. Fuel 1-1 at even, and then same thing for the Outlaws and Uprising. Paris 1-1 at -1, so they're still in it. But that Justice line -6. I mean, realistically speaking, they would have to win both of their, you know, their last 2 matches, and they'd have to 3-0 them both, and they still probably wouldn't get in, but they would have a chance at that point. So really, really big trouble for Washington. And similar in the East, you know, Dragons are in big trouble, but because the Spark are 0-2, you know, -3, they have to pass one team. You know, obviously Valiant, they're not competing with, you know, I think we all assume that the Charge are not going to do very well. You know, they're probably going to lose 3 or 4 of their matches this you know, this little stage as well. So for the Dragons, you know, you win your next 2, you're probably going to jump the Hunters. You know, who knows? You know, we obviously have to see how it plays out. But for the Dragons, it's not, you know, it's not complete worst case scenario. But they do have to, you know, obviously if they go 1-3, they aren't going to make it. So they are going to have to win out. But, you know, even if they don't win this tournament, or if they don't get to this tournament, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. You know, maybe give them a little bit extra time to rest, you know, recuperate, really, you know, hunker down. But, you know, Philly, they're in really good shape. They're basically going to make the knockouts at this point. New York and Seoul at +4, you know, they're basically going to have to win one more to completely secure it. But also in very good shape. So we got to see a lot of adaptations this week. You know, a lot of ball, a lot of Orisa. You know, we got to see a lot of swapping around with the Pharah. You know, we saw some legs, good amount of legs. You know, obviously we went back to some of the old Tracer Sombra as well, which still looked strong. You know, we did some mixed matches of those. You know, we saw some Tracer legs, we saw some Sombra, Pharah. You know, we saw some Pharah legs. So, it's been interesting. You know, we've had, depending on the maps, you know, some teams like the Bunker, other teams really like the Zen Brigida for the support line. You know, as we remember, Sigma is out of rotation for this tournament. For DPS, Ashe and Echo are out of this tournament, and for support, Lucio is out of the tournament. So it's really kind of thrown in a wrench. You know, are we going to play more of the divey ball type comps, or are we going to play more of the stagnant Orisa types? And then the support line has honestly been the most interesting one for me because, you know, we've seen some BAP, you know, we've seen a lot of Ana Mercy, and we've seen a good amount of Zen Briggs. So we'll see how that kind of solidifies moving forward in each region, of course. But finally, before we wrap up the video, we're going to take a quick look at the overall standings. So if you remember, for the West, the 9 teams will get into the play-in. You know, 10 through 12, you're done. Season is over. You know, by once we've played 16 matches. You know, once the Countdown Cup is concluded. 1 through 3, you're getting a bye. So very important that you make it into that top 3. 4 through 9 are going to be playing in the play-in. So we had a lot of, you know, we had pretty much 6 teams jostling for, you know, that top 3 spot. If you look at the standings right now, Dallas Fuel looking in really good shape. And remember, it's based on the points that you can see right here. So since Fuel have had a lot of success in the tournaments, they're actually way above San Francisco Shock and Houston Outlaws. They're at 16 instead of 10, even though their records are the same. So they're good to go. They're basically locked in. It's a fight for the 2 and the 3 spots at this point. And we had Washington basically fall out of that. You know, for Washington, your only chance is you gotta get into the tournament. You know, you gotta get into the knockouts, and then you gotta get to Hawaii, and then you gotta win some matches there. Otherwise, they're basically screwed. Boston and Paris are in pretty much the same situation. I guess you could put Toronto in that category too, but I see Toronto dropping, you know, 2 or 3 or maybe 4 of their matches for the Countdown Cup. So I don't give them much of a shot here. But that's basically what they're looking at this point. You're going to need some extra season. You're going to need some, like, you know, postseason victories in order to make your way up. You know, you can obviously get an extra like 3 points per tourney. So looking at, sorry, you can get 5. So anyways, like I said, battle for 2 and 3. Shock, still looking pretty good shape. But as we can see, it's mostly a fight between Shock, Outlaws, Reign, and Gladiators. These four, are the ones that are jostling for it the most. Atlanta, as we can see, they have the same amount as Gladiators, but they have that one victory in a Hawaii tournament, so they're actually even with Outlaws and Shock. All these teams looking good. Atlanta obviously just had a nice, pretty dominant victory over Outlaws, and they had a really close, victory against the Gladiators, so they're looking strong. They could definitely make a push for it. Shock barely lost to Dallas, but did get a nice victory. I was quite impressed with them over a very, very solid Uprising team. So it's going to be really, really tight down the stretch to see, who gets those buys and who has to play. Because it'd be really nice to have to avoid, those knockouts, especially, for teams like the Outlaws and the Gladiators and the Shock this year, who have not had a lot of success in the, in the knockouts. So, definitely something to monitor moving forward. We'll obviously have a check-in after next week as well. And then for the East, we have New York, that really nice victory against Shanghai. They still got a chance. They're same amount of points. Their map differential's a couple below the Spark, so they're right up there. But that's basically it. For this one, top 2 are getting a bye, and then the other 3 have to duke it out. So Shanghai obviously locking in, number 1. There's not going to be any issues there. Seoul's in good shape for the number 2, but Philly, is playing really good right now, so they could pass them up at this point. And the Hunters as well, they got a couple of bonus points from their victories against Dallas in the Summer Showdown, so they're still in contention for it as well. For the Spark and the Excel, it's more like just get to that 5. Spark, if you're the Spark, maintain that 5. If you're New York, get into that number 5. Jump the Spark if you can. Because like I said, Charge and Valiant, Charge could have a really good Countdown Cup. Go over, get a couple of victories. It's possible. Not likely. Sorry, you get 1 point for each victory that you have in the tournaments. So you could get 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you can get 3 per tourney. So, we're gonna see. It's gonna be very interesting. I don't think that it's gonna be super contested here in the West. I think that the Defiant are probably going to be okay because Florida's not gonna. I doubt Florida wins 2 or 3 or 4 matches. I think they probably win 1 at most. So it's probably going to be these 9 teams. It's just going to be where do they fit, which teams are able to sneak those buys in, because that's going to be the most important thing moving forward. Obviously the Countdown Cup, super important. You want to win each tournament, but we kind of transition to the overall playoffs, because that's where the big, that's where you make the big bucks. That's where you get to be called league champions. So, I do think there's a lot of teams in the West right now that are jostling for it, and a couple of teams emerging in the East that I think this is the most parity we've had since the inaugural season. I think seasons 2 and 3, we really had these clear, defined favorites. And do we have favorites this year, in the Fuel and the Dragons? Absolutely. But are there other teams, that have pushed them and that have beaten them in the regular season? And in the postseason, yes, we have. So I think it's awesome, very good for the game. We don't want to see this huge disparity and go, oh yeah, it's going to be these 2 teams. Like season 2, it basically came down to it's going to be Vancouver and San Francisco. Come on, it's just going to be them. And lo and behold, it was. So we'll see. I'm very excited. I hope you guys are as well. As always, thank you very much for watching. Again, let me know what you think about this format, if you like it. Let me know what you think about this past week, who impressed you the most, and who disappointed you the most. Like for me, Atlanta impressed me the most, and Washington disappointed me the most. I guess honorable mention, Shanghai disappointed a bit as well. But again, we're not too worried about them. So, as always, I hope you have yourselves a wonderful next couple of days, and I'll see you in the next one.